anti-mandate protests have entered their 8th day, but has the government taken the right approach in dealing with the crowds? I'm joined now by our political commentators Trish Sherson and Mike Williams. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So the thing is, yesterday the Prime Minister came on the show and basically wrote them off, called them everything but fringe nut bars. You know, she mentioned the Trump flags, of which there were a couple, but there were equally a lot of Māori sovereignty flags. They weren't mentioned. You know, she's really trying to paint them as fringe conspiracy theory lunatics, when many of the protesters there say, actually, we just want the mandates to end. So a very deliberate strategy from the Prime Minister. Trish, is it the right one?
I think it's entrenching things on both sides. There's no doubt, I think, that it is not expected of any cabinet minister or MP to go out and face this crowd in person. I mean, I think that the problem with this protest is they've done themselves a terrible disservice because of the violence of some of the messages. But I do think that, in particular, the behaviour over the weekend of the Speaker of Parliament has really done both the police who are trying to manage this and the whole situation a disservice. You know, the playing of the music over the tannoy, the sprinkler system, it's only entrenched things. And you know, I was reading last night the comments from the Wellington District Commander, who seems to be getting ready for these protesters to stay for several days or weeks. So, you know, I think the only way through this is to have a few days of relative calm, let everybody think this through. And Chris Bishop hit the nail on the head this morning, I think, when he said it is about the vaccine mandates. No one's going to put a time frame on that, but at least there could be some indication that at some point in the future we won't have vaccine mandates. And that's certainly the case that's happening in the US and Europe at the moment. All of those things are being rolled back.
Yeah, the thing about the vaccine mandates I can't get my head around, Mike, and you know, obviously I'm just an idiot with a microphone and a camera in my face, but why do we need the vaccine mandates now? I mean, we're like 95% vaccinated, whatever it is. I mean, these guys have literally endured a cyclone to make their point. I don't think a mandate's going to get them jabbed. You know, what's the point in the mandates now?
Well, it's, if you're vaccinated, you're much less likely to pass on COVID-19, particularly in this Omicron situation. And would you send your kids to school if you knew your teachers were unvaccinated? And I was discussing this with my daughter, who does have young kids at school, and she simply wouldn't do that. Now, Simon Wilson makes some interesting points, that the demand is not just that mandates be revoked. A group of the protesters came together and demanded the repeal of the COVID-19 Public Health Response Act, which is everything to do with COVID. And I'd make a couple of points in response to what Trish just said. National has not condemned Trevor Mallard's approach, and Simon Wilson in the Herald this morning endorses that approach and said it made the thing a bit more light-hearted when it needed.
No, Mike, they definitely have condemned the approach. Both Chris Bishop this morning and Christopher Luxon last night condemned it and said it was childish, stupid and didn't help anyone. In fact, the police all but condemned it too. What of the Prime Minister, though, Trish? Because she obviously distanced herself, you know, Wellington businesses in the paper yesterday said she went MIA for the weekend. Where was she? And then she comes out swinging on Monday morning, really pushing them into a corner. You know, should the Prime Minister be a little bit more diplomatic? And, you know, let's not forget that with Ihimato, there were police officers spat at, there was racial abuse of police officers, and yet cabinet ministers went to meet there. I mean, can you be, although much as we might hate the cause, whatever, can you be a little more diplomatic?
Well, it's a great point. We were discussing that last night, because part of the issue with the protest you've got now is it's an occupation, so it's unlawful. And we've seen occupations before where politicians have turned up because what they have connected with is the content of the protest. In this case, I don't think that anybody can sift through and get a coherent list of demands. I mean, yes, as we've talked about, vaccine mandates seem to be at the heart of it, but there isn't really a coherent set of demands. So I think that poses a problem. The issue that the government has got and the Prime Minister have got is, number one, normally the Prime Minister is the star of the show when there is an issue. She can be rolled out at the high point and with a hug or a kind word, she can diffuse things. That's not going to happen in this case. Also, the government was counting on this year Parliament being their sort of their stage, if you like, where they were really going to win against a reinvigorated National. What you've got is sort of a silage pit now on the grounds of Parliament that is every day producing exactly the kind of pictures you do not want on the 6 o'clock news if you're a government, and there's no end to that in sight. So I think this is another really difficult challenge for the government at the start of this year, and from what I see, they don't know how to resolve it at this point.
Mike, do you think it is that damaging, or do you think actually most people are vaccinated, they see this as a fringe group, it's not going to hurt Labour?
I agree. Look, I think I'd make the point that this also takes the spotlight on National, when they really ought to be trying to sell their new leader. I mean, we had the first sitting of Parliament, I think, last week, and I read nothing about the new National Party leader. But I think you've got to look at this in context. We're in the middle of a pandemic. If what is going on in front of Parliament is not a super spreader event, I don't know what is. And I suggest that you read the Dom Post this morning, where they look at the health possibilities of what's going on there. And it is just completely irresponsible to have children there. And I believe, according to Radio New Zealand, there's actually a newborn baby there. So this is probably, regrettably, going to solve itself.
Yeah.
These people are not vaccinated. They haven't got masks. We've got the most infectious COVID running around, and, you know, this is just idiotic.
Yeah. Mike, thank you very much for your time this morning. That is Mike Williams and Trish Sherson.